right. So, hello, everybody. Welcome back welcome to our little podcast mini-series conversation set over Human Disturbance weekend. This is Erika EK. I keep forgetting to introduce myself in some of these prior episodes, but I'm one of the company artists, teaching artists, choreographers with Human Disturbance, and also today, interview host, podcast host, or whatever. And today now in this episode, I get to sit with Sonja and talk about her role and relationship to dance and CKDC and to Human Disturbance, because this is, going to be the weekend of our concert. And since we had to postpone it with the pandemic and the stay-at-home orders, we are instead celebrating virtually by offering some of our past concerts available on YouTube, by doing this conversation series, by having many classes available on Patreon and that kind of thing. So without further ado, Sonja, tell us about yourself. Who are you? What are your students' name? Well, say your name, your pronouns, how you came to CKDC, your roles, what you do at CKDC, because you do a lot of stuff behind the scenes, favorite dance styles, what you do outside of dance, anything else you want to share about yourself.
Oh, yes. My name is Sonja Petermann. I use she, her pronouns. And actually, Sam Geish introduced me to CKDC back in the day when she was dancing with the company, among other things. She also did a whole bunch of stuff for CKDC. Shout out. And that was actually back in 2017, because I remember that was the bar crawl 2017. So I had a little bit of a gap between then and auditioning. And now that I'm an intern with CKDC, I do a lot of admin tasks, and I help with writing and editing grants and proposals. And lately I've actually gotten to edit some photos, which is pretty cool. Definitely not like the main, in-house graphic design or anything like that, but I just love that I get to contribute in artistic ways. And then also I dance with the company, and last season was my first season. So Blue Zone was my first concert with CKDC, and yeah, sadly, so far the only one. I'm trying to think of some other things. Outside of CKDC, I am a visual artist. So I have a studio space at Intersect Art Center, and I really love it over there. And they have a lot of other studios too. They have private studios and dance studio, which is awesome because I can hop in there if I want to do some dance work, or just stay in my studio and just draw and be emotional and shit. So yeah.
All right, so we're back because there was dog and barking. But Sonja, you were saying, you were about to tell me about some of what you do outside of dance.
Yeah, in that little moment, I don't know why I always forget, but yeah, I've been working on a grant project, and it is interdisciplinary, so we can use dance and also technology and kind of, I guess, animation styling and things like that, which I'm totally bad at the vocabulary, so I apologize. But I wanted to bring it up in this segment because I some of the other CKDC dancers are actually also in that project. So that's been something that's been cool for my just independent artistic practice, getting to meet other artists and being work with me on other things. And
yeah.
So that's been a really cool experience. So
yeah, I don't even know much about that project. It sounds really amazing though.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Natalie Rayner has been editing, she's been doing so much work, and she's awesome. And so we've uploaded a couple of videos to Vimeo, so I'll share those with y'all. I'll do that soon.
Very cool. Love it.
Yeah.
What's your relationship to Human Disturbance, the CKDC concert? Artist, choreographer, other production aspects? Which pieces are you involved with?
Right. I am a performing artist. So I was originally in, I feel bad talking about it past tense, but yeah, I was in Maggie's piece, which was based off of the idea that one person's, trash is another one's treasure, just repurposing objects in general. And that actually, the first half of that performance, we were going to ask audience members if they wanted to bring in donations, just items that they don't want or need anymore. And we were going to just over the weekend, over all the 4 shows we were going to have, just accumulate all that stuff. So you had a visual representation of just how much humans have, like that they accumulate over the years and everything like that. And just kind of use that in the kind of in an improvisational way. I was also in Ashri Els as an understudy, and her piece was it addressed just how change in one habitat can unintentionally and usually negatively change another habitat. And she used this idea of a compass as an analogy. So each dancer, there was 4 dancers, each one represented north, east, south, and west. And so as change happened in one, region, they would kind of move to another territory and displace the other dancer, and then they'd have to move. And it was like this kind of analogy that way. I know, it was great. And then, so I was an understudy in that piece, and I was also in Jane's piece, which, as you know, began with a dialogue about predator versus prey, and we discussed our experiences in those roles. But for me, or I don't want to say just for me, but I can't really speak for other people. It kind of transitioned into this problem of losing touch with just the wilderness and nature, and like, is anything in your present life like actually wild? Like, everything's kind of contained being in a city. And I really, really enjoyed how that piece just was constantly evolving and just getting to honestly explore just living our daily lives through that piece. So yeah, those are the 3 that I was involved in, and they were all really interesting in their own ways. And I don't know, I just think about it and I just man, yeah, it's kind of a loss, I'd say.
I know, it's so wild. Hopefully we'll be able to show these in the future. But yes, shout out to Jane Delaney bringing it with that piece. It was so fun to co-create, and to even like as a process and exploration, even though we haven't, it's still in process, or we haven't been able to show it like we planned to. It was a really great journey, and I loved how large that cast was.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And it was just like so many different experiences present and willing to share, honestly. Like, I felt that was, yeah, really enjoyable.
Yeah. Something came up when I was talking to Rachel in a previous episode about just how much we talk about process, or like how much conversation is part of the process of choreography and rehearsals and production at CKDC. And I think, that's really been true in my experience as well. And especially with when in Jane's pieces, it's like, talking about it and building relationship and connection beyond movement is really integral to that process.
So. Yeah. And I think it shows, I think it comes through, and I think audience members, at least from the reactions that I've gotten, can like sense that and want to talk about it too. They want to be part of the conversation, which I think is exactly why, I don't know, we move.
Yeah, absolutely. So for sure. Yeah, especially it feels especially relevant with Human Disturbance as a concert. Yeah. So how has the pandemic shifted how you think about Human Disturbance as a concert, and also how you think about Human Disturbance more generally?
Right. I'd say as far as the concert goes, I don't know if there's really been a shift. I'm mostly just, like I said earlier, kind of disappointed, because I think that there were a lot of good ideas. And honestly, like, I didn't even have access to the other ideas or themes or topics, or, so I just have those 3. I'm like, what else were people building? Like, we never actually, we were weeks away from actually showing everybody's work. And so that was, I'm mostly just kind of disappointed about that. And of course, it's amusing that our concert about how humans are disrupting the environment had to be canceled because of the pandemic that came about because humans are disrupting the environment. We've talked about that, and I just, every once in a while I'm like, yeah, like, I guess we shouldn't be surprised, but also
yeah. I think I described it as ironic before when I was talking to Kat, and I was like, it's not ironic, but it's just like, you know, of course it would be like this.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that word too, and I definitely am one to, I misuse that word, but it just sounds good, and it's like I feel like we should just redefine that word. It's like,
sure.
That is like what you think of. You're just like,
yeah.
I do think the timing is interesting in relation to our next concert, and the next our for those who don't know, like, our fall concert is going to be about civil liberties and social justice issues, and just like any kind of disaster, this pandemic has definitely just revealed even more than was already apparent, inequalities. And I'm really curious to see how artists in the company, how they use this experience, and how that influences those topics, those other topics that are more, maybe politically driven, or things like that. So maybe that's not necessarily a shift in how I see human disturbance, but I'm definitely curious how not getting to do this paired with what this reveals, like, will influence that concert. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, real. I love what you said earlier about how, like, we haven't actually, all the company members don't even know what the other pieces are about in full, because we never got to the Thursday night rehearsals at the studio where we run through the show. Yeah, that's huge. Yeah. And it's also been sweet to hear a little bit from folks I've been talking to about the process, or like even you sharing about the story behind Astrialities. It's like, oh, totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what other people say.
Yeah. And what you just said about the pairing of human disturbance with revolution, I think is really it's like they fit so well together, and so speak a lot to where we are as a community and society and in existence. And I think that, we decided that we were going to do the fall concert around this broader sort of justice theme, and different explorations of that before COVID-19 started to directly impact our lives. And also COVID-19 amplifies or magnifies some of these existing racial inequities and a lot of like the just the oppression that we live in, in late stage capitalism. Actually, like, my piece for Human Disturbance was about water and exploitation of resources, but also about human exploitation. And so I can see that through line, at least, like thinking about human disturbance, not just in terms of like the natural environment, but also human disturbance among humans.
Yeah, that's so funny that you said that, because as I'm thinking about, so like the general human disturbances shift, right? Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking. It's like, like my shift in thinking about human disturbance isn't like, it's not that underserved and neglected communities are like always hit by environmental damage that's usually caused by powerful corporations. Like that's something that is, true and known, unfortunately. And but I always felt that like what I could directly do in my like daily life was like recycle and reuse objects and like repurpose things into my art, and just try to be energy efficient and try to like take short showers and just like those like little things. And so my shift is in focus. Like my shift for this like topic is actually focusing on like, oh, like my actions are affecting the environment. Like actually, like I need to stop thinking about it that way and actually be like, oh no, my actions right now are affecting people. Yeah. And so I don't know, you saying that just reminded me of that, because it's like, human to human.
Each other. Yep.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
It's like I said, it's not like I before was like didn't know that. It's just that I think I guess I got like lost in like the whole, like, what can I achieve here now? And like that kind of thinking. Or honestly, also just thinking, well, the humans that prevent progressive policy, like nature's going to catch up and just eat us alive and it's going to be nature. But no, people are sick with the virus. And that part is like the nature part, but really the cause and extent of the harm is man-made. So yeah,
that
human
white
to human.
supremacy though. Yeah. That late stage capitalism, that racialized capitalism.
I'm getting all flushed thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's like been, it's like, it's not like this is a new human disturbance on humans. It's like, this is the way that these systems thrive and have been built. And I really hope that there is a more explicit connection when we think about human disturbance as an environmental issue, like planet, nature, not humans, but like humans against planet, but also no, like humans against humans, and like how that shows up racially and in these ways that we stratify and divide and oppress.
Yeah. And, I think what happens, and I'm not saying this justifies anything, but I do think that there's something to be said about like the psychology of it. Just in order for people to get others to like be inspired to like change, sometimes you broaden and get away from like those like darker, like just those facts that like bring everybody just like down in the dumps and everything like that. Like, so people are like, oh, stop using plastic because the oceans, think about these innocent animals. And like, there's like a way of talking about it. And I'm not saying that's bad. I think like if it brings change, good. And like, and I get stuck there too. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't want to buy things that are plastic because recycling is all messed up and like it's going to land in the oceans. Like, I do think like that. And then I'm like, wait, the end result is like, yeah, we want to save the planet, but like we also like the humans that are impacted by these things through messing up the planet, like getting back to that focus. So yeah, I totally, it's just it's just interesting, and it's circular, and I can get lost in there. So
So how do you think dance fits into this conversation? Like not this, well, of course, our conversation, but like the conversation around how human disturbance is a broader, it's about systems, and it's about human-made systems, and it's also about humans impacting natural systems and natural orders. Like, how does dance fit into this?
Yeah, well, I've been reading a lot of articles about how art is like currently and also in the future, like how it's changing, how it will be changed like in the long run. And I say art because like I think this is true with dance, but I also think just in general the arts, like visual art as well. I think that I'm hoping that in these times where, funding is challenging and values are maybe shifting, hopefully it's not temporary. I'm really hoping that it's long lasting. I just see art and dance and just being a force that kind of persists through it all, and honestly gives people something to use to get through. I don't know, like kind of getting back to like the reason it exists anyway. And I was just thinking, like, I'm not saying we don't need funding, because we do, but I think that lack of funding doesn't mean that there's going to be a lack of art, because I just think that it's such a necessity for humans. And if anything, I think there's going to be more people creating and making, and it's going to look different. And I think that I guess what I'm saying is I see art and dance and everything like that as a tool to tap into and use, because I think it's just it's gonna widen. Like, I think that it's not just going to be like you have this performance that you go and watch, and then there's this art gallery and you go and you look at the art there. Like, it's definitely going to be like, or it better be, we can work toward it to be more just accessible and community driven, as CKDC does. So yeah, like, it's not it's not going anywhere. And I think that's for the best. If anything, I think it's going to create some stability in all the chaos and save lives.
Yeah.
So,
why do you dance?
yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot in this, isolation, quarantine, shelter in place time, because I've been struggling with dance in this time. I feel like a lack of my attention span. Like I always thought I had a long attention span, and maybe that's the wrong word, because I think I can definitely focus on things for long periods of time. But like lately I'm thinking of like 15 things at once, and so I'm like, whoa, I want to do this, and I'm going to shift my thing to this. I'm just doing a little bit of a lot of things, and I hate that. And I've just been thinking about dance in that regard, where I think that I came into it. Well, I mean, I grew up as like a young kid dancing, but I think that I stuck with it and came back to it because it was a way to still that, to keep that mind quieter. But I'm realizing that having that designated space where I am going to see and interact with people and react to others' energies and creativity, like, has been something that, like, I just never realized how much of my love for dance was actually rooted in that. So I feel like, having a way to move as a way to not necessarily not think, but like think in a different way, and have that kind of release, and honestly just sweating, like just sweating. I love
so real.
Dance sweat is different than running sweat. It just is. It's just like this even, like, I don't know how to
That's
explain
a quote.
it.
That's an Instagram something. I don't know. Real.
Yeah, I'm bouncing around like the topic. I guess I got a little bit more into like, oh, I miss dance, instead of like, why do you dance? But yeah.
It's great. It's perfect. Amazing, for sure. Yeah, CKDC is so alive right now. We have so many ways there are so many ways to connect with us digitally. For folks who don't know already, like check out our Patreon page, or check out our like YouTube page now for different videos of just past work. We have Kinetic Community Connections, where we're alive and thinking constantly of new ways to connect and stay engaged, and bring dance and motion to this time.
Yes.
All right. Thanks so much, Sonja.
Yay. All right.
Yay.
Bye.